Okay, today I'm honored to welcome a trailblazer who's making profound impact on the lives of veterans transitioning to civilian success. Um, Ritchie Thomas is a seasoned entrepreneur and the visionary founder of Military Transition University, MTU, a game changing platform designed to empower veterans to thrive beyond the military. With a deep understanding of the challenges faced by transitioning service members, Ritchie has created innovative solutions, including the six-figure Soldier Academy, which equips veterans with a mindset and tools to excel as business leaders. He's also a published author, a dynamic speaker, and a true advocate for helping others build purposeful, financial, independent lives. Please join me in welcoming Ritchie Thomas. Ritchie, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on the podcast, man. And it's definitely I have a lot of gratitude. That even with the schedule issues that we were able to make it happen.
My man. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate all that you do for the community
Uh-huh.
on so many levels, but it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Let me dive in a little bit on your personal journey.
Mhm.
Um, can you share a bit about your background on what inspired you to found Military Transition University, and what was the turning point? I mean, what was the turning point that set you on this path, to actually putting it together?
Yeah. So Chuka, I was one of those guys. Right place, wrong time, all the above. I
Hmm.
had the pleasure and privilege of being in the military for 6 years, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, I transitioned out in the year of the Great Recession. So I went
Hmm.
from the active duty army to the army of the unemployed,
Hmm.
and I fell flat on my face. So 2007, 2008 was basically the Great Recession. So think of it as
Hmm.
COVID, just without the medical and finance, the healthcare scare of COVID, but economically we were in a really, really heavy recession. So
Hmm.
I was literally unemployed for a year and a half. And it changed me. It changed my mindset, my heart set, and my soul set. It just changed the way I was as a person. I carried myself because, a lot of times we teach men and women, from K-12 through kindergarten. It's just kind of like your occupation becomes your identification.
Hmm.
So what happened? They took away my occupation. I stepped
Hmm.
away from the military. Honorable discharge, by the way. But
Hmm.
they took away my occupation, and Chuka, I lost my identification in the process.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
didn't know who I was. So I spent a year and a half basically rebuilding my career and
Hmm.
from the ground up. So I started in an IT help desk, right? Part-time help desk, and then
Hmm.
full-time, and then manager and director. And I climbed the corporate ladder. But the problem was I had a struggle with every job I was ever at because
Hmm.
I was out of alignment with who I was called to become. So I was
Hmm.
supposed to be an entrepreneur, but the problem was in the military, we are trained for the combat battlefield, but we're not trained for the economic battlefield, Chuka.
Hmm.
And so I wasn't really prepared for this fight in not just corporate, but just the economic world to sell, sell, sell. And
Hmm.
so it was just a really, really hard time in me finding my true identity as a business professional. And I said, you know what would be dope is if I could go back and basically be the coach or mentor that I needed the day that I transitioned out of the military. And because
Hmm.
I knew that like 200,000 people transition out every year, I was like, man, it would be dope if I created a program, a platform, something to coach, teach, help, and serve all these people who are transitioning out. So,
Hmm.
Military Transition University was created from my own struggle. So that's kind of the
Hmm.
quick and dirty of how it got started and kind of how my last almost 20 years. We pulling up on 20 years, sir.
Hmm. Oh, wow.
Since I've stepped away. It's been a minute, but the struggles are lifelong. So
Wow. Wow. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty deep right there. So that's a brilliant business. Well, that's actually a brilliant product to provide because I when yeah like yourself when I had transitioned out, there wasn't really any, person telling you, hey, this is what you got to do. Here, this is what you just kind of go back home, right? But anyway, no, like let's dive into it for a little bit. Can you tell us more about like Military Transition University? What is your scheme on that, and how does it support veterans in building
Mhm.
the successful post-military phase?
Yeah, no, great question. So, and probably the obvious one, the
Mhm.
reality was I created Military Transition University to basically be an MBA for veterans.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
wanted to go to undergrad. I want to get my MBA, but I felt, I'm here in Atlanta. I toured Georgia Tech about 12 years ago to go look at their executive MBA program. And the reality
Mhm.
was they couldn't guarantee me an ROI in my investment. Now, I
Mhm.
really wanted to go. I was really willing to put the money down, but they was talking about 70,000 a year
Mhm.
with no guaranteed ROI. But I realized they were uh, basically putting me in a network of people, a community of people who were going to climb the corporate ladder. And I was like, it would be dope if I could create this on my own. So Military
Mhm.
Transition University, the simple answer, Chuka, is it's an MBA program for veterans. For
Mhm.
transitioning veterans and their spouses, because I think every soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, Coast Guardsman, they should all transition out of the military with a building or a business in their name. So I essentially
Mhm.
coach them along the way so they can do that, so they will have economic safety. Because the reality is, they can transition to a six-figure job at Microsoft, they can transition into a six-figure job with Google, but the reality is they don't own that job, the company does. And so what
Mhm.
happened with me when I transitioned out and didn't have a job, it was like, man, I could have fed my family better had I been trained to have a business or a building in my name that produces income. I'm
Mhm.
simply creating coaching strategies for transitioning people so that they could have a substantial backup source of income based off their talents, skills, and abilities. And
Mhm.
I teach them how to do that over a 12-week period. So that's really what MTU boils down to.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's definitely good for veterans to have like a roadmap.
Mhm.
Yeah, makes things easier. And you guys offer a lot too. From what I picked up. You got the tools and
Mhm.
you got the workshops. You
Mhm.
mentioned the app.
Mhm.
Which aspect of that? Which aspect of your platform have you noticed has had the biggest impact on the veterans that you've worked with?
Hands down, it's when we do the workshops, because a lot
Hmm.
of times I've been going to conferences to kind of establish a brand, and it's kind of a launch party, if you will. But
Yeah.
that one-on-one, that me time at a conference when people can see in person, as long as I can teach in person,
Hmm.
people see the vision, because really is a lot of the strategies and the frameworks are built so that soldiers and sailors can see the vision of their potential. And so once I give me 30 minutes with a whiteboard, Chuka, and
Hmm.
once I draw out someone's strategy, that's when all the
Yeah.
impact comes. So whether it's workshops in person,
Yeah.
whether it's going to conferences in person, whether it's teaching virtual trainings through the app. I mean, to be honest with
Mhm.
you, the app is just a digital classroom.
Yeah.
And that was very, very important to me to have a digital classroom, because the internet has no borders. You could very well post this podcast on over 100 different websites and fully
Hmm.
monetize it and teach. But really, is you could reach so many millions of people with a few clicks. And so the
Hmm.
app, whether it's just me teaching, but it's me
Hmm.
teaching, and there's no borders with the digital classroom. So the app, the workshop, and the conferences, quite frankly, they're
Hmm.
all just my frameworks, my coaching frameworks encapsulated in a digital format, or online and offline. But it's really just the heart of it comes from me teaching. I just want to reach as many veterans as possible by teaching them how to monetize their skill set.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So the workshop, that's a key angle to the program. Okay. Okay. So that's great, man. There's an element to your program, the Six Figure Soldier Academy.
Mhm.
It sounds pretty, yeah, it sounds pretty transformative. Can you walk us through that walk us through its framework, how it helps veterans shift from a soldier's mindset to one of a business leader?
Cool. Let's. I'll tell you what. We're
Mhm.
gonna do a session right on the spot, sir. So,
Uh-oh.
oh yeah. So, Chuka,
Uh-huh.
tell me the name of your. We know the name of the podcast, but
Uh-huh.
5 years from now, sir, where's the podcast going to be?
Well, I wanted to have a lot of subscribers. You mean
Cool.
I don't, you know what? I haven't actually answered the question. I
Brilliant.
haven't actually, no, I did, I wanted to, I know what it delivers. I wanted to deliver just like a collection of strategies, a mindset. But 5 years from now, that's a good question. I don't have a specific number.
Hey, and
Of,
I'm with you. It's not even about the number, but
uh-huh.
tell me about the vision. Let's give an example. State the obvious. You're a phenomenal AV engineer, host, all the good stuff. So
Uh-huh.
put it in sports terms. You're Stephen A. Smith. Are you a journalist? Are you a podcast host? Or I'm of the belief that Stephen A. Smith and Club Shay Shay could probably start their own ESPN. I think one of the two is probably going to do that in the next decade. So imagine Shannon Sharp Network.
Oh, really?
Imagine Stephen A. Smith Network. So let me
Uh-huh.
ask you, could we create the Chuka Network, the VP Vetpreneur Podcast Network? Do we see a media company of what you are building? Because that's what I see.
I don't know. Yeah, I well, I think well, I'm not necessarily thinking in that direction, but I think that the it serves a good niche, a good group of veterans like that have established businesses
Mhm.
and have made mistakes along the way and have found ways to solve those problems. Uh, I don't think there's a lot of podcasts that address that,
Mhm.
provide that avenue for them to, you know, pour those strategies back
Mhm.
into a centralized place where other veterans can see it. So no, but I see, I think I see it growing, but I don't know. I don't see a network out of it. I don't even know what a network is. To be
Right.
honest with
No,
you.
but
Yeah.
imagine a collection of shows under the
Uh,
Vetpreneur brand.
uh,
So
yeah.
imagine 20 shows, all kind of subtopics, right? But
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
thing,
Uh-huh.
I take that idea that people have, the long and short of it, Six Figure Soldier Academy takes the idea that the veteran has and we
Hmm.
bring it to life. Over 12 weeks, we create a strategy, we create a
Hmm.
blueprint, and we figure out how to monetize this idea that you've had. So if we
Hmm.
wanted to say, hey, Vetpreneur is going to make the VP Vetpreneur is going to make 100K a year, 250, half a mil, $1 million
Hmm.
strategy. What is the strategy to actually build that?
Oh wow.
What is the strategy to actually get there? So a lot of what I've
Yeah.
done with MTU was build my business, but the reality is I realized so many people on the side kept saying, "Hey, well, can you help me build mine?" And I was
Hmm.
like, "I think so." And I realized over time, Chuka, more and more people kept asking me this, and I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
the market, it's a supply and demand." So people
Hmm.
were like, "Hey, we have $1 million idea." What they didn't have was $1 million strategy. So
Oh wow.
over 12 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, a year, what I do is help them build their strategy
Hmm.
and I help them implement it. That's what I do. That's what Six Figure Soldier Academy
Oh,
is.
okay. Okay. Wow. That's great. That is awesome. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of veterans, not even just veterans, a lot of regular people coming out of high school. Of course, in our case,
Mhm.
people coming out of Army, Marines, Air Force, they might not initially see entrepreneurship as an option. You know, they
100%.
might they might just be thinking, come back, okay, I'm gonna work at X company or work at X corporation. How do you inspire and guide them towards seeing business ownership as a viable and fulfilling path?
That's the $1 million question, Chuka. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why I started MTU because I was
Mm-hmm.
like 30, 31 before I
Mm-hmm.
really understood the word entrepreneur. Because
Mm-hmm.
full disclosure, I'm an 80s baby. So I was born in
Mm-hmm.
82. Y'all get that out the way. But when I graduated high school,
Mm-hmm.
2001, people weren't having conversations about entrepreneurship. There
Yeah.
was there was no LLC Twitter. There was no grind Instagram. We didn't have those. So
Mm-hmm.
literally it was not in our vocabulary to start a business. And I realized that you can't be what you can't see. So you want to start a business, but no one ever showed you how.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be a gold medal heavyweight champ, but no one's put the gloves. Like, I didn't know entrepreneurship was a thing. I thought you
Mm-hmm.
had to go and work for someone, and there's no issues with that by any means. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality was, you either going to work for someone who has a business or you're going to own your own business. So why not own and master the basics of business so that you can have economic safety for your family? The average
Mm-hmm.
American, veteran or no veteran, goes through three different career transitions over their career, at least three. So that most people, it's like every 3 years now, post COVID, people are
Mm-hmm.
transitioning jobs. And every time you transition from a job, you lose a source of income. And
Mm-hmm.
no one teaches veterans really the basics of business, because we are the whole point of the military, regardless of branch, regardless of your rank, you are
Mm-hmm.
trained for the combat battlefield. We are not trained for the economic battlefield, which is largely entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to teach veterans the basics of business so that they can have a backup plan when they transition from job A to job B, job C, their spouse
Mm-hmm.
transitions. It's like, if we don't teach ourselves how to fish, dude, like, we're going to be hungry. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I believe entrepreneurship isn't like a good to know. I think it's a necessity for economic survival for all families
Mm-hmm.
going going forward. I really believe that.
Oh wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's great, man. That's great to know. So as far as strategy is good, and the concept is good. But mindset is a whole different thing.
Mhm,
What are the most critical mindset shifts that veterans need to make
mhm.
when transitioning into civilian careers, or of course, for this situation, uh, trying to start their own business? What are the most critical? What are these critical, mindset
Mhm.
shifts that you've noticed?
Perfect. So I think the best way to change people can't be what they can't see. I know I just said
Hmm.
that so heavy.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say it twice, right? The reality is, the best way for me to change your mindset is to change your vision. So most people, again, you can't be what you can't see. So the
Hmm.
best way to change your vision is to change your elevation. So if I can change your
Hmm.
elevation, I can change your vision, which will ultimately change the way you think, i.e., your mindset. So my
Hmm.
whole concept is, when you walk into a building, I want you to envision yourself as the CEO of that building. If you
Hmm.
walk into a building, the next building you walk into, Publix, Kroger, Walmart, I want you to envision yourself as the CEO of that Publix, that Kroger, Walmart, the Falcon Stadium.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want you to envision yourself as the CEO of that business, but also I want you to start seeing yourself as the CEO of You LLC. So if
yeah.
you sell something, you got to change the way we see ourselves, sell ourselves, but ultimately the way we brand ourselves to the
Hmm.
marketplace. And you got to walk in the CEO of You. And that's
Hmm.
what I wasn't doing. We transitioned out of the military, Chuka, and we
Hmm.
asking people to hire us. And I was like, well, maybe they should. Well, what if we flip that? What if we asked them to partner with us? What if we said,
Hmm.
hey, my business can benefit your business? So we have to change the mindset, the heart set, and the soul set of the way that we see ourselves. And we see
Hmm.
ourselves as soldiers. But the reality is, Chuka, soldiers don't get hired, business
Hmm.
professionals do. So I got to
Hmm.
change their mindset so they can change the way that they see themselves, sell themselves, and brand themselves. Because I want to pull out the entrepreneur in every transitioning service member that's in the military. That's the reality. So you have to pull this entrepreneur out so that your family can have economic safety, because there's no such thing as job security. That's how
Yeah.
that's how I changed their mindset.
Oh wow. So okay. So you step into a Kroger and imagine yourself as
Mhm.
the CEO of that, and of that supermarket. Yeah. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Now, I've never had it put that way before. Huh. Yeah, I could definitely see how that could be sharp and influential. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. This is getting good. This is
So, for example, right, I'm a huge Falcons fan. Y'all
yeah.
relax. I pay my
Uh-huh.
taxes in Atlanta. Might as well
Yeah.
cheer for the home team, regardless.
Okay.
Of how,
Okay.
right? But I walk into this Falcon Stadium. Truth,
Uh-huh.
the stadium is $1.5 billion with a B. And
Uh-huh.
and I'm thinking like the whole game, I don't even remember who he was playing, but the first time I went, I was just in awe of the architecture, like the
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure. The
Mm-hmm.
stadium, for those who've never seen it, the rooftop open and closes based on the weather and whatever. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, from a project management standpoint, fun fact, corporate America, IT, post-military, I was largely in technology project management. So I'm sitting there
Mm-hmm.
staring at the rooftop like, this is like the project management from hell. Like it's no joke. And I was
Wow.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how did they get the funding for that? Like who built it? Who
Mm-hmm.
outsourced the contracts? Who did the proposals, the
Mm-hmm.
RFPs, like all of the, I'm thinking all of the logistics side to get the capital to build this $1.5 billion event space. And I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, man, could you build your own $1.5 billion event space? Could you build your own stadium? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, man, if I were to do it, how far could I go? And that's kind of so that's what I think about every time I walk into a building. I was like, man, legitimately, if you think
Mm-hmm.
about the next time you walk into a gas station, QT, Quick Trip, Racetrack, BP,
Mm-hmm.
if you were walking into your favorite breakfast spot, the Waffle House, the McDonald's franchise, if you
Mm-hmm.
owned it, you would move differently. You would think differently. You would wake up
Mm-hmm.
at a different time. You know what I'm saying? And then that's what I
Mm-hmm.
realized. I was like, oh, once you actually study wealth and people with the next tax bracket, a lot of them they are where they are because of they own it. It's the
Mm-hmm.
equity, and soldiers are not trained to think about that at that level.
So it's a good entrepreneurial mind exercise for you to do.
Big time.
Not just for fun, but just
Mhm,
for it's like functional, practical application. Wherever you go, if you pull into a gas station to
mhm.
fill up your tank, imagine yourself as the CEO of that place, and then really see how the logistics work,
Mhm.
what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, what you would do differently, and
Boom.
yeah, yeah, that is very that's actually brilliant, man. But hey, see, I think that's
Yeah.
the whole point of this show.
Right.
My
Right.
my previous guest was I what he said blew my mind. Now you're blowing my mind. I would have never thought of this. So
Appreciate
man,
it.
that is awesome. That is definitely awesome as far as your mindset shifts. Wow. Okay, so uh, to follow on to that question, one thing, of course, that's popular with the military, is the leadership skills. How would you? Okay, this is actually an important question for me
Mhm,
because I I read something about. I don't think. Okay, I read something about leadership from a veteran, and I noticed he had the only leadership thing on Amazon. But anyway, without I don't want that to be a distraction. Let me ask about leadership.
mhm,
So military experience, it comes with incredible leadership skills.
mhm.
How can veterans best translate those leadership skills into the civilian world to build to build successful careers?
Yeah, absolutely. Another great question. I always say that the hardest questions have the easiest answers.
Hmm.
We learned that from Dr. Seuss. The reality is, leadership is translated into one word: influence.
Hmm.
Influence. Influence. And can you influence a group of people, 3 people, or 3,000, or 3 million, to
Hmm.
move from point A to point B?
Hmm.
Yes or no? And how many of them get to point B is a reflection of your leadership. And so you really got to harp in on how valued and respected your leadership is at a place, whether it's a
Mhm.
college group project or
Mhm.
leading a group of engineers, at a for-profit, at a nonprofit. But you also got to understand, so leadership, so you got influence is 50% of that, but
Mhm.
probably EQ is a good 25%, and influence is another 25%. But you also have to understand the business side.
Mhm.
We live in a beautiful country, but the reality is it comes down to one word: capitalism, which means anything and everything is for sale. Okay.
Mhm.
And there's every building you walk into as the CEO or the CEO of you have to understand,
Mhm.
like, that building, it has a monthly revenue, monthly mortgage, bills that are due. So you have to
Mhm.
think about the capitalism side. How do you help that business or that building
Mhm.
make more money, save
Mhm.
more money, or save time? And your
Mhm.
leadership is basically directly impacted by that. That's how they measure it. Did you help this
Mhm.
business make more money, or save time?
Mhm.
Because time is money. So your
Mhm.
leadership, think about it as a reflection of how you've impacted the bottom line. Like if
Yeah.
Chuka reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want you to come work with VP, the Vetpreneur podcast. I want you to help me make $2 million." Like, okay, as a leader, can I move the needle enough to help this network, this podcast, hit 2 mil? And I wasn't thinking like that the day I transitioned out the military. So for
Mhm.
them to really measure their leadership in the corporate world and the nonprofit space, that's how they measure it. It's basically, it's a largely reflected on how you move the bottom line, but you got to also connect the bottom line, their IQ, with your
Mhm.
with your EQ. You have to connect with people inside, mentally, emotionally, for them to that intrinsic, the intrinsic motivation with the extrinsic.
Okay, but they got to get rid of the acronyms, right?
100%.
We can't.
And
You can't
and
be in the in the
stop,
civilian project talking about AO. Okay, it's
right,
your AO.
or
Okay,
stop grunting at people.
yeah.
Who, like, we don't know what whoa means. Don't grunt, hoorah,
Oh
hoorah.
man. Okay.
No, none of that. No acronyms. They want to talk bottom line.
Yeah,
That's the
you
only
gotta get
thing.
rid of acronyms. Okay.
That's
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So now, on overcoming challenges and facing fears. But let me throw a question in there. What have you seen to be the most common fear or misconception that veterans have about transitioning?
it's
And how do you address that? And how do you address
no,
that? Yeah.
another great question, sir. It's terrifying. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie to you. I did 4 years, and then I realized 60 days out, I was like, I ain't got no job.
Mhm.
Let me go ahead and talk to HR G1. I need to re up for 2 years. I did it
Mhm.
just to buy time.
Yeah.
I legitimately wasn't thinking about it. And it wasn't until they was like, "Yo, you got like 8 paychecks left before you're broke."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm transitioning out in 60 days. Let me go ahead and re up for two
Mhm.
years." I did the bare minimum just to buy enough time for me to think
Mhm.
about it. And it wasn't like till like 6 months out, I started going to TAP and taking the resume classes.
Mhm.
The big hole in the game was I didn't understand what a business was. So you got this $1 million resume, you know how to
Mhm.
interview, you've dressed well, you make eye contact when you shake hands,
Mhm.
but I didn't understand the basics of business. And so my whole thing is like, and there's that's 50% of it is losing your identification when you transition from your occupation. But the
Mhm.
other part was losing my community. And
Mhm.
they say it takes a village, but also it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to like maintain. You need your village. And the hardest part about the transition and the fear was I lost my village. I lost my
Mhm.
teachers, I lost my mentorship, I lost my teammates. And it was a really, really rough transition because I didn't realize, like, dude, you lose everything when
Mhm.
you transition out. Like, there is no more support staff. And now
Mhm.
you're just a vet who can call a VA 1-800 number. And so
Mhm.
can be terrifying if you don't have a village. So the one thing I would tell them to kind of minimize impact: build your village,
Mhm.
build your coach. You're
Mhm.
going to need a coach. You're going to need a mentor. You're going to need a battle buddy. You're
Mhm.
going to need a psychiatrist. I think every man, every adult.
Okay. Hey, you're being truthful.
being truthful. Everybody 16 and up listening to this,
Uh-huh.
spouse, kids. I think every adult needs a psychiatrist, like somebody to help
Hmm.
them through that mental, emotional battle.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the reality is, vets in our families, like you understand, we're trained for the combat battlefield, but the flip side, Chuka, is we're not trained for that mental, emotional, and spiritual battlefield.
Wow.
So, like to kind of soften the blow, the fear of transition is like it's a scary world, but you got to
Hmm.
have the support system set up for you, regardless of whether you're wearing dog tags or not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so you have to and veterans transitioning, they don't consciously think this. They don't have that checklist that you just went through. But in order for you to be successful and transition successfully, you have to check those boxes, whether formally or informally, and that helps with the process.
100%.
Great, great, great. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, awesome takeaway from that. So let me ask a question about purpose.
Mhm.
You emphasize on building purposeful lives. How do you um personally define purpose? And how can veterans who are transitioning find theirs after leaving the military?
Yeah, no, awesome question. So, I mean, my whole basis of MTU as a coach,
Mhm.
as a human, I realized that soldiers are we are always trained to follow orders,
Mhm.
follow
Mhm.
orders, but no one gives us any final marching orders. So, Chuka,
Mhm.
I believe it's like, yo, one of my final marching orders is I want you to be happy after you take the uniform off. I
Mhm.
want you to mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset. I want
Mhm.
you to have a strategy to go from from soldier to CEO, mentally, emotionally, physically. Find your purpose beyond
Mhm.
beyond your occupation. I love coaching, speaking, and writing. That's why I do it
Mhm.
so much. And so I was miserable in a lot of my corporate America jobs because I was out
Mhm.
of alignment with who I was called to become. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to build a baseline and a program and a business around my purpose. So you really got to dig deep, deep, deep. You got to go deep in the trenches, Chuka, of your
Mhm.
heart. And I would call it like cave diving. Like we were to take a
Mhm.
deep dive inside your heart. What will we find? What do you love to do? Do you love to
Mhm.
wax on, wax off the fence? Do you love to
Mhm.
build cars? Do you love to paint cars? Do you love to dive? Do you love to host a podcast? Like whatever
Mhm.
it is you love to do, and think about what careers, businesses align with that. Most people we meet at TSA or any big bureaucratic system, like a lot of them are miserable. You just like
Mhm.
they hate their job because they're not in their purpose. And what happens is
Mhm.
we'll chase a paycheck, we'll chase finances, but we never chase fulfillment. And so I only work with people and I encourage them, like, listen, we got to find your purpose through finding like what is your vision for your life. And
Mhm.
my biggest concern when folks transition out of the military is we can train them to write a resume, they teach
Mhm.
them how to build a resume, but no one teaches us how to build a life. And a lot
Mhm.
of time the meaning to your purpose is literally what pulls you out of bed. Where's your heart?
Mhm.
What are the 3 to 5 words written on your heart? And that's your purpose is probably in one of those 3 words. That's what I tell people.
Wow. Nice, nice. Yeah, that's a good angle to approach it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you got to have purpose. Purpose, I think, is the north star of all the north stars.
Boom.
Yeah, yeah.
Boom.
Um, Great. Okay, so another question too. What are some? This is something that probably a lot of business leaders I've seen. They say it's helpful, but me, I think actually being someone that's still on that journey, I still consider myself a rookie. Actually, I am a rookie. Um, but let me ask you, what are some daily habits or practices that have been instrumental,
Mhm.
uh, you know, in your success? What would you say these daily habits? or practices are?
One, again, I think every adult needs to go to therapy on a regular basis. So
Uh-huh.
monthly therapy visits. I realize, Chuka, you cannot build while you're broken. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
believe everybody needs, that's a habit. Like it has to. That mental game's got to be strong. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I try to read or listen to at least one business book, audio book, or podcast monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
tried to I made a very intentional effort to read a finance article every single day. So
Mm-hmm.
from like 2011 to, I mean, even to today, I read something about finances every single day. It became so much of a hobby or obsession to learn that it
Mm-hmm.
now became part of my daily checklist. So every day it's a business article, corporate
Mm-hmm.
finance, something. Some people are like, oh, it's boring. It's probably boring because you don't have any equity into something. So that became something I realized. I was like, yo, because I didn't know about the stock market. And
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't trained for, angel investors and how to pitch and things like that, and just
Mm-hmm.
how to read a financial statement. So those type
Mm-hmm.
of things. So you read an article every day. But the other big thing, and this may not be daily, but it's honestly, man, was going to conferences, professional development conferences,
Mm-hmm.
monthly, quarterly, whether they're webinars. Like you have to completely immerse yourself in an MBA program
Mm-hmm.
and in the person that you want to become. So I wanted to be the number one CIO in Atlanta. That was my
Mm-hmm.
goal. And I
Mm-hmm.
started studying CIOs and CTOs, and I live on LinkedIn, and I was studying all the top CIOs. So if I typed in CIO, I was like, damn, why isn't my why isn't my profile at the top? Because
Mm-hmm.
the CIO is making 300 a year, and I'm over here help desk making 40. Like, yo, the math ain't mathing. I was like, I really studied. So I always call it study the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Study the people every day. Ethically cyber stalk their
Mm-hmm.
their LinkedIn profile and kind of put what they're doing right, how they brand themselves versus how you're doing. And I made that a daily habit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
honest story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so you got to learn something new every day. So,
Every day.
okay, yeah, that's great. That's great, man. Continuous learning. You can't
Basic.
just say, okay, I've gotten this skill set. I'm gonna take a break. I'm just take a break and sip on mojitos for like 6 months. So you have to. Okay, so I think you're the second person that has emphasized this. So I know it's important. So you have to actually make a conscious effort to let that be your default baseline and learn something new every day. And okay,
Specifically towards business. Yeah.
towards business.
Mhm.
Okay, right on with that, man. What's your vision um for the future of military transition university? Yeah, because it's a great idea. And how do you plan to expand its reach?
Yeah. No. I'm glad we're recording this, sir, for the archives. So let me be blunt.
Mhm.
We got 200,000 people transition out of the military every year. I
Yeah.
have I have fact checked that number with Chat GPT, Alexa, Siri. Everybody digital has run the
Uh-huh.
same numbers, and it is what it is. 200,000 transition out. My goal, my dream, my Super Bowl would be for every transitioning service member
Hmm.
to download MTU the day they transition out of the military.
Oh
It's my
wow.
it's my free coaching program. It's my free
Hmm.
curriculum. I have 5 core courses, 10 videos each. So I'm trying to give 50 hours of training. That's
Hmm.
my gift to everybody transitioning out of the military. And the sum short of it, it's all the best lessons from entrepreneurship that I've
Hmm.
learned as a coach, as a speaker, as all of the above. And I'm trying to train every one of them. So my gift is I want them to all have it at their disposal the day they transition out. And so
Hmm.
that's my big pie in the sky. So that's 200,000 vets every year. And so my goal to do that, quite frankly, is publicity tour, market the hell out of it, pay to play, whether that's running digital ads, whether that's
Hmm.
hosting a show, whether that's going on podcast shows, TV shows, radio
Hmm.
shows. I treat it like a Disney movie.
Hmm.
I treat it like if MTU is Shannon Sharp, and it's my job to as an agent to get Shannon Sharp out there. What am I doing on a publicity tour? So the person listening to this, you got a great idea, great concept. That's awesome. What's the marketing plan to get it in front of people who need to see it and hear it? And so my big pie in the sky dream, again, is to get it downloaded to every veteran who's transitioning out, or for their spouses, because there's a lot of, like I said, entrepreneurial lessons embedded in there. That's the goal.
Great. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that's a lot of transitioning veterans, man.
It's insane. I didn't think the number was real. I was like, how we even have a military if 200,000 transition out? And you gotta, seriously, like, it sounds crazy, but once you break down the numbers, like, you got 5 service, really it's a 6 now with Space Force. So each branch loses about 35,000. And so if you divide that in half, okay, half of those are retired 20 years. And then really it's probably 3 categories. So a third of those retire out 20 years. Another third do their 4 years in honorable discharge. And another third are, medical discharge. So I was like, okay, but I was like, man, 200,000 just sounds insane. But we still have about 1 million, because you got to think of all the new recruits. So think of it as a high school, right? You get a good 20% graduate. And then the freshman class has a whole new onboarding class. So I was like, man, 200,000 sounds insane. But those are the numbers. Fact check those, please.
Yeah. That's definitely insightful, man. Let's dive into some actionable takeaways, so to speak, real quick. So if I'm a veteran, I just transitioned. What is a good first step that I can take toward building a successful, business career as a civilian?
Man, again, love these follow-up questions. So I think you sit down, step, breathe, pray, meditate, but you need to be very, very clear about what your objective is.
Yeah.
Let me be blunt. How do y'all plan to pay the rent the first month you were out of the military?
Yeah.
How are you going to pay the mortgage, the car note, kids' tuition? How are you going to pay for internet? How are you going to pay for T-Mobile? And think about cost of living, but also your purpose. So how do we align your purpose with paying bills? And I don't want, and a lot of people do this, they chase finances over fulfillment. And hence why we have so many people who are kind of out of alignment with their purpose, because we go after profit over purpose. So I want y'all to be very, very clear. So step 1 is writing down where you plan to be 12 months from now, 2 years, 3 years, a short, a medium, and a long-term strategy for your life. So step 1 is the visualizing where you plan to be and how that correlates with you paying bills. I want a vision for your plan. That's step 1. We go on step 2, or you got another question?
Yeah. Okay. No. That's pretty good. That's pretty actionable right there. I think my favorite question. I think I usually ask this at the beginning of the podcast. I don't even know why I delayed it. It escaped my memory. But this is more of a fun question, which I stole from Club Shay Shay. But I promise I didn't plagiarize. It's not plagiarism.
I'm with it.
But no. What's your Mount Rushmore of motivational books? If you were to say recommend some books like for veterans to read to help in transitioning, what would you say that the top 4 are?
First of all, my book, The Mediocre Miracle, which is very I'm joking. Got my stuff. No, great question. Hands down, first one that comes to mind is the Dennis Kimbrough is the godfather of the digital entrepreneur space. Kimbro is amazing. He's got two phenomenal books, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, but
Mm-hmm.
also my favorite of his is The Wealth Choice. And I would beg anybody listening to listen to it. I've listened to it twice on audio. I've read it twice. It was a scientific study that he did for about 10 years on
Mm-hmm.
Black millionaires in America, dispelled all the stereotypes. Not everybody plays football, not everybody raps,
Mm-hmm.
but he
Mm-hmm.
interviewed like 500 entrepreneurs. And
Mm-hmm.
so the life lessons are in this book. So the wealth choice is 1, 2, and 3 for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two is Robin Sharma, the monk who sold his Ferrari. Um, it's honestly like a what pulled me into coaching, right? So think about the monk who, making 3 million a year, bought a Lambo, bought a Ferrari, and hated who he was. He was out of alignment with who he was called to become.
Yeah.
So definitely got to put that on there. Robin Sharma is my guy. The third one, The Alchemist, same thing. They say
Uh-huh.
all great books have two things in common, right? A man goes on a journey or a stranger comes to town. So The
Mm-hmm.
Alchemist to me is top three because of it's a man goes on a journey. A boy goes on a journey and finds himself along the way. He finds his purpose. We keep coming back to that, sir. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say the last one is the $1 Million
Mm-hmm.
Consultant by my guy, Alan Weiss. He's one of my favorite authors, writers, a digital coach of mine. He is a phenomenal speaker and author, but it's one of his coaching programs in a book, and it's the $1 Million Consultant because I believe it'll help any veteran transitioning out how to start their own business. So it's a must read for me. If
Oh
those are
wow.
those are the four. Yeah, Alan Weiss is a dog. I love that man.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome, man. Yeah. I think just one question, and then we can start to wrap up too. Because I know we're coming up on time. Um, I know a lot of veterans that I guess I think I was one of them. Maybe I think I don't. It wasn't my thing. The next getting a network, I didn't
Mhm.
really have that skill set. Now, let me ask you, see if you can throw some uh 2 cents or some nuggets on that. What advice would you give to veterans that like who feel isolated, during their transition, as far as like so tips on how to build a support network,
Mhm.
you know,
Ah, man.
and how important is first of all, like since you're the expert, how important is building a support network,
Mhm.
and what advice would you give on that on how to
No,
build
I'm
it?
loving these questions, man. I'm
Mhm.
loving these questions. Support network is 10 of 10.
Mhm.
You break down champions, Tom
Mhm.
Brady, Jordan, Tiger Woods. The reality is they all have 4 or 5 things in common, and I study them intensely.
Mhm.
Every $1 Million champion has a coach,
Mhm.
wink, wink. They have a support system that's all
Mhm.
star Hall of Fame teammates, and a Hall of Fame coach. And that coach has a Hall of Fame structure, a
Mhm.
framework you follow. LeBron spends $1.5 million a year on his body. There's a reason
Mhm.
why he's played longer than anybody else. What's your frame to take care of your mind, body, and soul? What coach is holding your hands through that process? What
Mhm.
accountability partner? Because you have to understand, we were trained for the combat battlefield, but we were not
Mhm.
trained for this mental, emotional, and spiritual battlefield
Mhm.
that awaits us after we transition out of the military.
Yeah.
You're going to need a framework in a community. So
Yeah.
it's something you have to accept, you have to acknowledge, and you have to live with. This is your responsibility, is to build a better version of your life on the other side.
Yeah.
But why not hire the best people, coaches, psychiatrists, shrinks, a career coach, whoever? You got to work, you got
Mhm.
to pay bills, you got to build a house, you got to have a life. And it's like all of that. Why not model people who've done that? And so
Mhm.
the best way, framework, steps for them to follow, Chuka, is literally plot it out, draw it out on paper, and then hire
Mhm.
people who can help get you there. So
Mhm.
that is the that is the answer to the question in short.
Oh, great, 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 awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing some insight in that. Let me ask you a fun question. Yeah, since you were in boots, you were active duty, and it doesn't come without its fun war stories and all that. what was your most fun military memory when you were in?
Is this a parent friendly show, kid friendly show? What's
Well, keep the PG-13, man. I don't want to,
I'm
whoever.
joking. I'm joking. I'm gonna keep it family friendly. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But one of the
It's
funny, it was funny, it was real, but it was just
uh-huh.
a really good moment. So I had
Uh-huh.
the privilege of being a paratrooper, Chuka. And
Uh-huh.
so most paratroopers know you jumped out of a C-130,
Uh-huh.
and it has the infamous 4 second count. So when you jump out of an airplane C-130, it's got 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, boom, hit it, parachute explodes. All right,
Yeah.
launches.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I was stationed down in Homestead, Florida, this Special Operations Command South, SOC South. I was their crypto guy. I was their IT help desk guy. And for some
Yeah.
reason, they let me go on a jump. In Chuka, they did a water jump over Key West.
Yeah.
Literally one of my favorite days in the military. We did a water jump. I'm honorary special forces. I supported them. I was not, a Green Beret, but I was their IT guy. And think of it as
Yeah.
Call of Duty. I was the guy that was talking to on the walkie-talkie, right?
Yeah.
Back at the command center. But they said, you know what, kid, we're going to let you jump with us today. So I got to jump out of a Chinook. Over Key
Yeah.
West with the Special Forces, Rangers, and the SEALs because it was a joint command.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
scared. I'm
man.
nervous. All that good stuff, Chuka. And they said something as we got on the bird. They said, you know what? There's something you should know. It's not a 4 second count. It's a 6 second count.
Oh.
It's an extra 2 seconds. So because a C-130 at the speed it travels, the parachute populates quicker than out of a Chinook. So the difference from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, I go up, I line up, the jump master pulls me out, Chuka, and he says, Thomas, go. I jump out. Let me tell you something, sir.
Yeah.
The scariest 2 seconds of your life
Uh-huh.
is jumping out of a Chinook. So that 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, and because I had about 28 jumps in me,
Yeah.
it was an extra 2 seconds. And the parachute did not come out. 1,005, parachute doesn't come out. 2006, my chest, my heart starts bumping, and I already got my hand.
Oh my God, I can visualize it. Oh my, I can imagine this. Oh God.
It was just 2 seconds, but
Yeah.
it felt like 2 hours of my shoot not launching. So that was one of the best days. It launched successfully.
Uh-huh.
I landed in the water, and it was, quite frankly, it's an awesome story. So that was one of my favorite moments in the military, sir.
So you didn't start singing the cadence, and if my main don't open wide, look out, Brown.
That sounds great.
That
sounds
fun
great.
when you're singing it on the cadence.
It was
And
no.
wait till it happens to you in person, sir.
Right. So I was physically, my body had responded. My hand was literally on this metal knob. I'm getting ready to pull my reserve shoot out.
Yeah.
And so
I think wait, what is the line on the cadence? I've got a reserve by my side, and if that one should fail me too, look out, Brown, because I'm
boom.
Look out, Brown.
I was physically in reaction. I wasn't thinking about no cadence, no nothing. But it was.
But it's not like that. When it happens, you're nervous as hell.
Boom.
Oh
boom.
man,
adrenaline's going through the roof. It was just 2 seconds, man, but it felt like a lifetime. I was like,
oh man,
Jesus
Christ, brother.
Yeah. So hence why I'm an IT guy behind the scenes.
I'm glad you were on the good side of that 2 seconds, man.
Yeah,
because you get to do all this fun business stuff, man.
Yeah. Which I
Richie,
love.
man, it's been fun. This has been a fun podcast. Nice talking to you. It's been a conversation. Can you share? I don't want to forget this. Can you share like your social media links where people can find you and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, the best place, honestly, is just the website. militarytransitionuniversity.com, militarytransitionuniversity.com. Most of my socials it's Ritchie Thomas.
Yeah,
that's RITCHIE. But yeah, I live and breathe on the website. So that's the best point of contact there. But no, I appreciate you having me, sir. Love the program, love the mission, love that you found your purpose outside the uniform, sir. So I salute you.
Yeah, great. No, I'm gonna have all your links on the description
Absolutely.
too. It's good. Yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube and all your favorite social, all your favorite podcasts, channels and all that stuff. Hey, but Richard, thanks, man. We got to get out of here too because we were talking for a while. Yeah. So hey, thanks for being on the show. I'm glad. I'm sure we're gonna do it again. And you have enjoy the rest of your Saturday, brother.
My man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.